The topic today is communication tactics. Let me share my screen for a second. In the beginning, I like to share this little introduction. So this is Membership Masterminds. This is a separate brand, separate logo that we created. It's got its own website, membershipmasterminds.com, that we do nothing with. It's really meant to just say what it is. But this is a independent LinkedIn group. I think because of the nature of LinkedIn, there doesn't tend to be that much activity in the group. It's not as good as what I would consider to be like a typical community. I know because I've seen some people post stuff, and even though we have about 700 members now of this community, which I think is really, really cool, it seems like the value for the most part comes out of these discussions. And so far, we've gotten pretty good feedback from these discussions. Feel free, if at any point you're not getting value out of this, you think the topic is boring, feel free to take off. Um, are we recording this, Brittany?
Yep.
Okay, great. I don't.
Also, Dave, a
Yeah.
little retcon. There's nothing on the website. We've just uploaded all of the previous roundtables on the Membership Masterminds website.
Thank you, Robson. You know what? Let's do that. I want to take a look here, and this will be good for everybody. So www.membership. All right, so membershipmasterminds.com. There we go. Recordings. Look at that. So we've got all the recordings from the past, and uh, so there's what, six that we've done now. All right. So if this is interesting, you want to replay these, like, oh, this would be a great little background podcast, wouldn't it? So maybe we can turn this into an Audible thing or an Apple iTunes thing as well. Well, something to consider. We can talk about that. Needless to say, today's topic is communication tactics or communication. What is the topic today? Communication something? It's all about
Communication
communication.
tactics.
Yes, communication tactics. And so here I have 5 questions to spark the conversation. I actually really like the last 2 questions the most, but I think we have to warm up to get there. The last 2 are essentially how do you break through the noise and how do you measure success? And I think those are 2 really good questions. I'd love to hear everybody's input on, or at least some people's input on. But let's start here. Brittany or Robson, if you guys haven't already, would you post that into there they are. Thank you, Brittany. So there are the questions in the chat. What I would love to start with is if you guys could put your name, organization, and your role into the chat. That'd be really good for everyone else to see who's here in the meeting with them. And of course, if you want, you can look each other up on LinkedIn as well. With that, let's just start with the very basic piece here. And again, you're welcome to participate in just the chat, although I would love it if I could get your help by actually making comments, even if you just have a dad joke, Wayne.
You got it.
Thanks. So let's start with the very first question. And I'll start with a really, really simple one. I know the communication tactics a lot of you guys are using is primarily email. Am I wrong? Is there any other communication tactic that trumps email in terms of performance and volume?
Tracking. No,
Yeah.
I agree. That's the easiest one to track. We use a lot of the different tools as well. I sometimes struggle in the metrics, and sometimes I think the numbers are skewed for not for some reasons, and some are unavoidable. But I struggle with what is the best way to communicate, particularly now as an aging membership and membership professional. When I first started 10 years ago in this role, my first job was to get rid of mailings, and we turned everything into email. Now we're considering going back to email, to general mailings, because nobody's opening emails as much anymore. So it's interesting.
So when you say general mailings, you mean snail mail, like postal service?
Yeah, post office, general mailings.
Yeah.
We were doing a lot of that, and we got rid of almost all of it. And
All
now
right.
we're
So tell me, let's start. I'd love to start with just a master list here, and man, I could go on and on, and I'll throw some in here, but I'd love to hear you guys just jump in, throw some key communication channels, and I'll keep an eye on the Slack as well.
Google Ads.
We got the community, SMS, right, or text.
Yeah, Alexis put voicemail drops.
Thank you.
LinkedIn advertising.
You've got the well, it'll come back to me. What
I
else?
think social is probably big for people too. Any Facebook, LinkedIn. I don't know if people are still doing Twitter or X.
We still sometimes purchase print ads.
So this is, well, let's keep going. But I'm noticing something really interesting in here. There's newsletters, which is email, I guess, but I think it's interesting to separate it out, especially if you're using something like rasa.io. Selfishly, I'm going to put in there Prop Fuel, which is a way of engaging by asking questions.
Joanna added phone calls.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking of, Joanna. Thank you. That was the top of my head. Isn't that funny? It's like almost the oldest school except for snail
Good
mail.
old fashioned way sometimes.
Yeah.
Attending events, tables at events.
In person. You know what? Something, again, I come at this from a biased perspective because I'm often thinking about what we do here at PropFuel. But so asking questions happens over email and SMS, but we've also started doing that on the website. So something that's not even here is your website. And speaking of website, then you have bots, right? Like your chat bots. There's chat. There's Betty Bot, which is like a knowledge base. I saw a post once. I can't remember. It might have been I don't think it was Marketing General. It was Amanda Kaiser, I think, put together an engagement report, and it showed a whole bunch of these things. And the hands down, I mean, I don't think there's any disagreement here. Most of the communication and most of the success came through email.
So can I just even put a subsection underneath that in
Sure.
targeted emails, which have been more successful for us than just general emails, but
What's the difference, Wayne?
industry specific? We do a lot of lobbying. If there's something that's impacting businesses in a certain group, we'll geo-target those industries and tailor the message to just those people. And it's a targeted email, I guess.
So, I mean, is it anything other than a segment?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Probably not. Probably not.
A segment meaning picking out a specific group of people and sending them notes. Similarly, though, like something that's completely different is just one-to-one emails, right? It's very much like a phone call. And oftentimes great results come from that. Okay, I don't mean to exhaust this list. Is there anything else? Anything you guys are hearing? Anything you want to put in the chat? Anything that's not here that should be? Were there any surprises here? Anything that you haven't heard of? I'm gonna drop this into the chat just for you guys if anybody wants to reference this list. Something I think is interesting here is a lot of this is like push notification versus two-way exchange. You know, like SMS is two-way, Prop Fuel is two-way, phone calls are two-way, in-person is two-way, bots oftentimes are two-way, but then you have Google Ads. Oh, community is two-way. And community is member to member, whereas a lot of this stuff is association to member. So these are some variables I think to think about.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
I don't, I know what it is, but how do people do voicemail drops? Is that like a service that you buy? An app? We've never done that.
So I do think there's services that are that you can purchase to help you craft that, I would think. We have
Yeah,
not used
so-
that yet. We have used like a group that's familiar with us to do reach out calls, but we provided the script, everything, and they made phone calls. It wasn't like a voice message drop.
So we've utilized that for the past few months, and we've used it specifically for renewal reminders. And we're able to use a service that is able to contact people within the US and Canada. Most of our members are US based, so it kind of fit with us perfectly. And what we did was we had our director of membership record a message, and it was just like, hi, I'm not gonna say her name, but it would be like, it was me. I'd be like, hi, I'm Alexis from IFT and manager of membership experience. Just wanted to call to let you know that your membership is up for renewal. So really an easy way just to kind of nudge them on that. And we also shared like that person's phone number too. So if it was me, I would have left my phone number for them to contact me back with. And we've actually seen pretty good success in that. We did used to have a service that would call people, and we did not see the conversions there, but we found pretty good conversions and renewals with this voicemail drop. It's easy. I think we're able to reach about like 300, 400 people, and the cost is $64 a month. So definitely something that was an easy add to our budget, especially when we're having up to like 100 people renew. It's an easy, conversation with our finance team there, but it's been a game changer for us because it's another point of renewal or point of contact with somebody, but not another email, which we've seen people kind of ignore when it comes to the conversation of renewals.
Alex, did you mention the service you used or not? I'm sorry, because that
Oh,
sounds
no,
interesting.
I'm sorry. I believe it's called Voice Logic. I'll double check and throw it in the chat.
I've
Anybody else?
also, at a previous organization, I'd used Drop Cowboy, and we
Right.
saw pretty good results with those too. And it is inexpensive, like Alexis has said.
I'd love to find out more about those.
Yeah, Chris put Voice Logic in here as well. Voice Logic, comma Canada. Does that mean I'm assuming that means the Canadian firm?
Correct. They're
Yes.
based-
I'm actually kind of surprised voicemail drops are even legal. With the regulations around SMS, like it's shocking to me that you can just pick up the phone, like drop a bunch of numbers in there and leave voicemails in people's phone.
Well-
Actually seems more intrusive than just sending a text.
It's-
Members opted out, then you just delete them from the list, but.
Chris, can you start over again?
Yeah, so if your data should have a field that says that people opt out of communication or telephone calls or whatever, then you remove them from the list. But most people are willing to have it, and it rings. It doesn't really engage them. It just sort of goes into their voicemail box.
Can I ask,
Yeah.
is there a difference if it's a business phone versus a personal phone? Because
Yeah, sometimes they don't all go through. Sometimes if there's a routing system for the phone, then oftentimes they don't go through. Internationals are a little tougher to go through, but we typically have about an 80-85% rate. So it's really also about how clean your data is.
Diana,
you.
do you have something to add? I see you nodding and I couldn't tell. if
I
that's
was
like
gonna ask the same question. It was a solidarity to Wayne, because I was
Yeah,
gonna ask
yeah,
the question
okay.
about business line versus cell phones, since we have mostly
Yeah.
business lines, but
Right.
it just sounds like you just don't pay for those, right? It's unsuccessful. We don't pay for it. For those, Chris, the ones that they can't deliver?
Honestly, like someone said, we're sending thousands of calls, and it's like $400 a month. I mean, it's nominal.
Interesting.
I think it's not unlike just blasting out an email, but there's a little less noise on people's phones than there is an email, right? Like if I look at my phone, I have a few text messages. Sure, I have a whole bunch of emails, but that's almost separate from my phone. I have a few text messages and I have a few voicemails. Like
Yeah.
there's not a lot of competition for noise.
I've seen it used for trade shows and certification reminders for getting your education credits in, which we've done here. But I used to work for the National Association of Broadcasters, and they would do them for the trade show.
What would they do? Like so this actually leads into that third question. What would a messaging be around a trade show? What
So
was it about?
Is the early bird rate ends on Friday.
So
You know,
registration drive,
Yeah.
getting people to register. Yeah.
I think Michelle put an interesting comment in here. Sorry, Michelle, I'm going to call you out. But she had put in the chat, her mantra for years was get out of the inbox. So why fight for attention in such a crowded space? And I'd be interested to know, for those of you who are leading these like communication efforts in your association, are you finding that email is turning into a communication channel that you're struggling with? Have you made any changes to this? Like where, if you're trying to get out of a crowded space, what are the other channels that you're using that you're seeing success in? Or what's a different approach to the email that you can use to stand out in a crowded space? Because I don't think email's ever going to go away.
No, it definitely won't go away for us for sure. But I just keep repeating it so that my whole staff can hear. The answer to every problem is not just let's send another email.
Another email, exactly.
Exactly. And I mean, I
So-
think
so-
Dave kicked off the meeting with some of what all of those other options are, depending on your membership. Where is the least crowded space, right? Is it in community? Is it in text? Is it, I mean, we're a Prop Fuel customer and we've gotten really targeted with our emails and using the combination of some mass, some really targeted. For our live events, we actually also use text and all of those things. I think the more customized and the more targeted you can get, obviously the crowding of that space just gets smaller and smaller, and you have a better chance of getting that person's attention. So part of it is just knowing your membership as well.
I'm going to jump up and defend email. I came from a society that will remain nameless, and 14 months ago, they were sending out 3 emails a week. And it was like hearing from the prom queen. It was all about them. We're doing this, buy this from us, come to this. It was like nonstop advertising. And I think the email open rates were 30 some percent. So now I'm with a nurse practitioner organization, and our email open rates go between low 60s to 80 some percent because it's good content. It's not every day. It's what they want to read. I mean, our newsletter was going to members. And I said, really? What's the benefit? Would members pay for the newsletter? Well, not really. It's a short one. So we send it to 13,500 people. We have 2,800 members. I still have a 65% open rate. But so it's, and we have an online community, but the updates come via email. So I think it's the message and the fact that we're sending stuff that they want to hear. But the other thing is, like, as the father of 3 daughters now in college, if you say it once one way, it's never heard. Or like my wife would tell me, you don't hear me. So put it in your email, put it in your social media, put it in social media twice, because everybody doesn't read every social media post. And we know that the analytics behind it are that they don't even share it with all your contacts first go around unless it goes viral. So again, I came from a group who said, well, we said it once and nobody responded. So now I'm going to say it 6 times through 3 different channels, and they probably still only see it once.
So Jeff, so a suggestion, I think this is really good, and I'm glad we have so many people. I'd suggest if you have something to say, raise your hand.
Oh,
Go down
sorry.
to the, no, you don't be sorry. I just thought of this. Go down to React and click on raise hand. But while I'm talking, Jeff, I think your point is to tailor the message to the individual a little. You said you know what people want. I mean, that's interesting to know what 13,000 people want. That's a tough thing to do. That's actually the whole value proposition of PropFuel right there. But my an analogy I made once before, and forgive me if you've heard this before, but I remember this had just happened. I sent my kids and my whole family, we have this chat in text for my family, and I sent them all this, and they're adults, right? Like they're adults, they have adult brains in theory, and or at least developing brains. And I sent them this podcast about dopamine and like um it was fascinating about alcohol and like the impact of dopamine. It's really, really interesting. I thought it's like everybody should listen to this, even my 20-year-old, right? And do you think I got a response? Do you think I got any engagement out of my family? Zero. But then I sent a text saying, hey, does anybody want anything from Shake Shack? And boom, everything lit up. They're like, yeah, double cheeseburger, bacon. And like my point with that little anecdote is if we don't give people what they want, then you're unlikely to get engagement. And I would say and this is now I gotta be careful because I'm gonna get on my soapbox if I go on any further, but they is not a segment. It's not a target audience of 1,000 or 100. It's a individual. What does that person want? And if we can get down to that level of individualization and personalization, there's all these great tools making that easy to do, then we get away from this abused resource called email, which has been absolutely 100% completely abused over the past 30 years. I mean, destroyed. We saw this opportunity to reach out to people and we just blasted everything we could every day. And now there's so much noise, it's hard to break through. All right, stepping down off my soapbox. Any more discussion, or anybody want to challenge Jeff or agree with Jeff or amend Jeff's statement or mine? All right, let me go to this one because I think this is really.
Hey, Dave, Willa's
Yep.
got her hand raised.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry, Willa. Go ahead.
Okay, because I just did it. I kind of want to support what he said, because we kind of do a little bit of that, like try to do multiple ways, do like email and social media. But the thing that helped our email was that we stopped sending everything to everybody.
Yeah.
So we have multiple special interest groups. And so we send to the group that thing is important for. So that way, when we do have something from that group, that we send it out and go, this special interest group is planning this fantastic thing that you can't miss, then the general membership starts to look at it. So one way I measure like whether the emails are working is whether I get a response. So whenever we send out emails for micro volunteering, for example, we pretty much get overwhelmed with responses with people wanting to do whatever the things are. So I found out from our group that they really want something to do. They just don't want to get an email. They want an assignment or something to do, particularly the younger members. So the segmenting kind of helped us, and we get way, way, way less unsubscribes because we use Constant Contact. And when you unsubscribe from everything. And it's hard to get back in. So, and we make sure we tell them that in the email. But segmenting has helped us. So we're not, because we literally send things out every day, but we try not to be sending things out every day to the same people. So that's all.
Kevin? Did we lose Kevin?
Unmute. Yes, that's me.
Oh,
Am I here? Yeah, can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay. You know, both Willa and Jeff and yourself, you're talking about content that engages, and that is, of course, very, very critical. But even a baseline before that is trust. You know, if people see your name in their inbox and you've already burned out your trust, they're not going to read it no matter what the content is. So
Yeah.
that is a critical point too.
I love that point. And so that often starts with new members, right? So new members come on, and it's not uncommon for a new member to receive this email saying, look at all these things we do. And it's the same when it goes out to everybody. It's like, look at these, like, and there's literally 50 links in there. Now, that message one time could be interesting. It's like the encyclopedia of you, everything you do. Cool. But then the next email comes out and there's another 50 links. Again, this is one of my 5 stories that I tell all the time, but I went to physical therapy once. My physical therapist asked what I did. I told him software, what kind, and then I dug in. I was like, well, do you belong to APTA and American Physical Therapy Associations? I used to. I was like, uh-oh, tell me more. And he's like, well, there's just no value. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're a physical therapist and you're telling me APTA is no value? He's like, yeah, I mean, I would just get all these emails and like tons of stuff. And he literally pulled up an email and I asked him to forward it to me because obviously I'm interested and this is my business. There were 50 links. And he's like, this is just the last email I got from them. So you're right, Kevin. What happened is APTA, and I'm sorry to bash APTA, but this is not just APTA. I'm bashing most marketers, which is you send everybody everything you can think of that might be a little bit important, and you're burning trust, Kevin. Yeah. Willa, you mentioned you got many fewer people to opt out, and once they're opt out, it's hard to get them back. I've seen a number of organizations go out to their opt-outs, and of course, you could debate whether or not you can do that or not. I'm in the camp that you can. Transactional email, go back to your opt-out and say, hey, we noticed you've opted out. You're missing out on X, Y, and Z. Would you like to opt back in? And then yes, no. And you would be shocked at how many of those people say, count me in, like bring me back. And most of them don't even remember opting out, but they opt back in. And the next thing you know, you have a whole bunch of people back on your list.
That's what we do.
Good. All right. I would really like to, these are the 2 questions that I was most excited about hearing. How do you break through the noise? And this is, I think this is part of what we've been talking about, but I want to be very, very specific. What strategies are you using to ensure your communications resonate and drive results? And then I want to hear about how you measure results. Jeff, you focused on open rates, which I think is interesting. I want to spar with you on that one. But let's start with this. How do you break through the noise? I've already heard so far some of you target your messaging. Voicemail drops just happen to break through the noise because there's not much noise on your phone, ironically. What else helps you break through the noise? Try asking if they want a Shake Shack.
We're able, if somebody comes to our website, we track what they clicked on and how long they stayed, and then we try to follow up with something geared towards what they clicked on.
And you're tracking that through the IP address or because they're logged in?
I believe the IP address. I'm not the tech guy, but I'm pretty sure that's how we do it, because we're able, even if they're not a member, or well, no, because you could still create an account without being a member. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. There's lots of ways to do stuff like that. Yeah. One way I've seen organizations break through the noise, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, is you try to connect with that with as close to the individual level as you can by asking individuals what it is they need. You have behavioral and transactional data, so that helps you segment stuff. And then you get down to a group of, I don't know, a smaller group, go to them with a question. Based on how they answer that question, now you can deliver a really personalized message. And then if you can collect enough data over time and build this profile, about your members, now you can really start to get to know your members. I want to build like this profile engine to collect member data. Like that's something I've been thinking about and might be on the
Horizon.
that'd be 2026 for Prop Fuel, I think, is this profile engine, but that's something I want to build. Jeff, what do you got? Oh, muted, Jeff.
I came from the fundraising field.
How do you
And
break through there? Yeah, everybody wants money, right?
So two things there. My most profitable one is I worked for an air medevac, and there were 1 million people in Western New York. And realizing that there's probably only 30,000 who would ever think about giving you $1, you need to focus. And it isn't just because people have money. So, you need to figure out where that comes from. But there's a saying in fundraising that says, if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. So, reach out to people and ask them what they're thinking, and maybe they'll tell you. But one of the things, as an old guy, I've figured out is there is no silver bullet. So just like we communicate a bunch of different ways, we have to communicate a bunch of different messages. My staff range in age from probably 30 to 60. If we're going to do something big, we all talk about it first. Because I might think of it one way, the 30-year-old might think another way, my 22-year-old daughter might think completely differently. And fortunately, everybody doesn't think the way I do. So you need to, and then you try something. If it works, you do a little more. If it doesn't, you don't do it. I mean, we're going to make mistakes. We just mailed the 20,000 nurse practitioners in New York because I got a list. I was hoping for a 1% membership. We might get 0.5%. Okay, we get 0.5%, we don't do it again. We try something else. But if you don't try, you don't win. You don't try, you don't fail. You gotta try a little bit of everything. And then when all else fails, ask. I asked our members, which benefits are most important and which benefits do you use? And big surprise, they could care less about enterprise car rental discounts. They could care less about getting a discount for an attorney. Their number one was advocacy, because if we don't advocate in New York State, they can't do their job. And that a light bulb went off and said, you know what, I'm not talking about that enough. That's what they want to hear. So ask them. And I've seen enough prop fuel stuff to know you ask them what their interests are and send them what they're interested in.
Don't have that.
The challenge is figuring out how you
Yeah.
weed through thousands and thousands of people to make it a little more personal without going insane or going broke.
That's exactly what I was just going to comment on, Jeff. So I'm a huge believer in embracing AI and automation. Right now, the first thing I guarantee, if you're not saying yes, I'm all in, then probably what you're thinking is like there's no better way to make communications more impersonal than AI and automation, right? But AI and automation allow you to cover your bases for the masses, like for a lot of people. And there's a lot of great AI and technology, like Prop Fuel, for example, that do allow you to do that at a fairly personal level. But the reason I'm such a big fan of AI and automation is because it frees up the human being to do human being things, like picking up the phone or directing an email to one person or solving a problem that you don't have AI or automation to solve. Like there's things that you guys should be doing that you're really good at because you're human. And then there's things that machines should be doing because they're really good at doing machine things. And so if we can embrace the technology and the AI to do automation and go through these patterns, that I'm a huge, huge believer of that. But not for the purpose of becoming more efficient, that's a side effect, not for the purpose of saving money or making more money. It's so that humans can do their jobs better.
So I agree, Dave. I'm the
I'm
old
leaving
guy.
a butt. Is there a butt there?
Yes, I'm all in. I don't know where to get started. We as an executive team, we have multiple departments, right? We have membership, we have events, we have government affairs. So, we've talked to some people and they're like, okay, you can get one general bot and then you can get bots for each of your individual. And it seems like we're spending so much time, we haven't come any closer to any decision on what it is we're going to do and how we're going to use it. The other part that I struggle with, which was earlier, is tracking metrics. How do we track what's working, what's not working? I'll give you an example. One of our member benefits is a multiple employer 401k plan. And we sent out Google ads, targeting Google ads, and somebody referenced it on LinkedIn. Well, we were getting all these individual calls from people and email messages back. It shouldn't have gone to them, and we weren't involved in what they were looking for. So our numbers looked great. Our Google ads, wow, we got a lot off of this. But when you dialed down into it, was like, of those, there were very few that were actually beneficial. So I struggle with, and social media, right? We talk about hits and all those terms, and our numbers are good there. But to me, like, how's that generating into engagement, into membership, into product purchases, those types of things? I struggle with that.
So let's talk about that. That's the very last question, which is around how you measure success. Jeff, you brought up open rates, and let me tell you why I wince a little bit with open rates. Number one, you can't tell actually who opened something. With all the privacy regulations, what happens is if somebody in Apple or Google receives it and they've opted out of sharing their details, it automatically just shows that it's opened. So open rates are at best a good broad measure as to whether or not your email was more successful or less successful at getting in front of people than another email sent around the same time. Like, that's a good way to use open rates, is sending 2 emails around the same time. But if you're comparing open rates last year to open rates this year, throw it out. If you're actually using who opened an email to trigger automation in HubSpot or something, throw it out, because it's not actually working. So the absolute best way to track results is conversions, right? Like, depending on what is the purpose of your email, and did it accomplish the purpose? But that's hard. It's much harder to track. What about you guys? What are some of the metrics you track? Not just in email, but in any communication tactic.
I have one thought about that, Dave. So one of the things that we have done is, if someone, and I'm curious your thoughts, because you said don't trust opens. What about non-opens? Because we have tried resending with a different subject line, people who do not open another email, just to try and get it, like you said, I don't know, someone said, send something out once, they miss it, they never see it again. So for those that we know don't open, we try a resend on those sometimes, depending on what the message is, if we think it's valuable. Do you think that we can trust the do not opens?
That I don't know. That's a really,
Okay.
Brittany, Like, that's an interesting, because what I said is you can't trust the opens.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you can trust the did not opens. That's a really good question.
And it could be that there's more people that should get the did not open follow up than do, but at least maybe the did not open list is a good enough group that didn't open the first attempt.
Brittany, well, we got a few minutes. Can you ping Cam and see if he knows the answer to that question in Slack? My partner is the developer and the guy when it comes to our product. He knows everything. So we'll ask him, see if he can tell us the answer to that question. And maybe someone here knows too. Nope. We're all membership people.
I don't, but I wonder if you could, Diana, obviously just tracking, going back to back and seeing if they then open on a second, just a couple mailings, and then, because that would also clear it, and the database is probably clean enough for the most part.
Yeah, we just try it with the, oh, sorry, Sandra, were you going to jump in? Yeah, we just try it because as we used it, here's an example. We used it recently because our renewal email to kick off the year was from our CEO about what we're anticipating in the year ahead for the industry. So for us, that seems valuable enough to get out more than once. So for those that did not, we know did not open, but yeah, we're looking to see if how many opened the second time, Kim, to your point. Just to try and get the message, because we felt like that was an important one. We don't always send our renewal emails twice, but the same ones twice. But that one, we did it to the do not opens. Oh, okay. Joe, I see.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that feedback, Joe.
I also think timing matters.
We send out renewals in every newsletter. We tell them their expiration date. Our AMS will send out 4 notices starting 120 days before. And then we send out a personal email from an individual. So just in case the server gets blocked, the individual's email would get through. And then if they don't respond to that, we send out a hard copy if we don't have an open invoice after that. Then after that, about 15 days, we send out Dave's prop fuel notice. And then 40% of them still say they don't know that that they're expiring, regardless of the fact that we've sent them, if you look it up and you look at all the different messages we sent them with their expiration, it's probably 50 different notices. So, that's just the world we live in. And I think it's going to be one of those things where we can't get frustrated with. We just have to take our medication and deal with it calmly and just know that that's the world we live in.
I'm not willing to accept that, Joe. Just something's broken.
Well, that's even with prop fuel, Dave. So it helps, but it's, at least we know. I mean, without prop fuel, we got 40% of our people that I see them now. And so what that's actually done, the data that we've received from prop fuel has actually led us to reformat some of our, and give them more proactive directions on how to safe list email and things like that. I just did that this morning, in fact. So going back and monitoring that prop fuel, those KPIs, and trying to adjust our process to make it as friendly as we absolutely can is pretty critical.
I'm not suggesting that prop fuel solves all the problems, but I'm also, we have a little saying here, pleased but never satisfied. And so, yes, I'm pleased with progress, but man, there's lots of room for improvement, and I'm not going to stop looking for it. And that's
neither will we. But
Yeah.
I've been the CEO of 4 different associations, all very different, and a lot of the same phenomenon happen. In fact, I just got back from a meeting not too long ago with 60 educational associations and their CEOs, and it's striking the phenomenon that occurs through the vast majority of those same associations. So you're right, we're never satisfied, and I get that, Dave. I mean, that's part of probably one of my greatest challenges as CEO is trying to hold up the expectations to make sure we're always looking for something better and different and something that would bring value and something that would encourage that. But
Thank you. Jeff?
So by the way, I'm not going to have my open rate printed on my tombstone, but when we send it, we do a resend to everybody who didn't open the first time, and we do get a chunk of the second one. So our total is like a combination of the math of both. So I would think if it's completely automated and blind, we wouldn't be getting opens on the second go around. I do also look at click-through rate, and we've got sometimes we get some really good click-through rates. We have a very low unsubscribe rate. I'm not saying, well, it's this open rate, we're divine, but it's better than when it was 30. But just like Joe, we're communicating a couple different ways. We used to mail out like 3 or 4 invoices. And I told them, I said, stop the printing and the postage, because guess what? I belong to a fundraising society. I only respond to the very last one when I want to mail it in. So we do the email from our CMS, but then we do another email for our higher logic email, because, especially in healthcare, a lot of those get blocked. And then they'll get a hard copy mailed to them. If they lapse, they get an email from me from my email, thinking one of those is going to go through. And then they'll still ignore us. But at least we try different ways, different messages. You don't say, well, I sent it once, I guess they're leaving. So yeah, we're doing exactly what Joe's doing, and we're seeing the same thing. But we we have people who will scroll on our homepage. They're looking for one specific thing. They're not members. They will scroll past a 2-inch big, brightly colored thing with the word on it they're looking for. They will scroll past it to click on a button that allows them to text us because they can't find it. And that same resource is in the web page 3 times, and they're saying, I can't find it. Where is it? And you almost want to say, just, blink, it's right there. So some people, you're just never going to get through to them.
Kim had an interesting comment in the chat a while back about slightly changing the subject here about value proposition being correlated with the onboarding process. And a quick little plug here, we're doing I think new member onboarding webinar, Brittany, is that on February 5th? Yeah,
Yep.
so we're doing a whole webinar where we're bringing in one of our clients to talk about their new member onboarding process. If that's interesting to you, if it's top of mind, then I don't know where you can sign up. Maybe just send Brittany an email, brittany@propfuel.com, and she'll get you registered for it if you're not already registered.
Yeah, and I can
Um,
share the link in the
oh yeah,
comments
yeah,
too.
yeah. That's right. Put the register. Perfect. Thank you, Brittany. But yeah, so new member onboarding is I'm a huge fan that or believer that most organizations can improve their onboarding process. Everybody has an onboarding process, but oftentimes it's not really a listening mechanism as much as it's a talking mechanism. Tell them everything. Tell them this, tell them that, as opposed to why did you join? Why are you here? Kim, anything to add about, it sounds like you might have a new member onboarding process that might be working. Do you have any comments on
I've,
it?
I've had a few onboarding processes throughout my tenure in membership. I think it's going to be different whether you're dealing, let me put my video on, I'm sorry, whether you're dealing with a trade association or an individual association, right? Do you do an onboarding for your trade and try to get the whole company on it and do it that way? Do you set up a recording option on your website so that they can link a video, just a regular new member onboarding process? Do you put them in a mailing campaign that once they do this and they kind of, okay, week 1 or month 1, they get this, and then month 2, they get this, and so on and so forth, based on what drip campaigns you can have. And then, of course, if your association has the time or things with it, is the personal touch or calls and welcoming them, particularly maybe those higher dollar if you have trade associations that are based on, the monies, those little extra value touches when you have account executive or managers goes a long way. Now, that's when you're dealing with a bigger association. If you're looking at some of these smaller things that we're looking at, it's a lot more handheld. So that's where we do go in the automation part and then the drip campaigns. And so, but if I can jump something else in that was going back to the renewal campaigns and such, something that's been different with the new clients that I've been on as of late, we ran their invoices so that they show up in the member's profile when they log in. So this gives them the opportunity when they're signed, and that's just because that's how we just handle billing. It's much easier that way, so we can run and calculate our renewal reports, right? So I print everyone's invoices on 11/1. Well, that comes up. I can pull who's renewed. That number is always a true number of what I have, and also it just helps the brain. So with that forces them that when they're signing in, they see that they have an invoice on their account. It also goes when they're signing in, let's say they're registering for an upcoming event. Maybe it's just whatever professional development, they're seeing that. So it's another front of mind for them that there's an invoice. It also then strap holds them from being able to go on and access any member benefits. So I'm still looking at what the value is coming from that. As this client had just moved to a calendar year membership and making it much easier to manage. But that would be something else I would consider if your system allows for invoicing to sit into their database, and then it doesn't mess up your accounting and such if you need to transfer, delete an invoice, so on and so forth.
Thanks, Kim.
And that was a lot. I'm so sorry.
We could, I think I'm looking at the chat and I think we could continue on, but there seems to be a natural pause here, and I may take advantage of this to hear what topics you guys would like to discuss next month. Was there anything here that you want to drill down into, or is there another topic altogether? Renewals seems to be a hot topic. I wonder if we should drill down into renewals. Put in the chat some any kind of topic, membership related. Could be anything related to engaging your members, getting your members to do stuff, building your membership, staff-oriented stuff around membership. Whatever topics you want to put in renewals, specifics for on time.
I like retention, right? It's cheaper to keep a member than it is to get a new member. We've tried and employed a lot of different new strategies around retention, and some successful. Number one, we finally hired a full-time person, and that's their job. But retention is something that we still, can continue to improve on.
So these are really closely related, renewals and retention. Why don't we, it seems like there's a good amount of interest in that topic. Relative weighting of engagement points. That's interesting. Engagement scoring.
Yeah.
That'd be a good topic one day, Brittany.
Engagement
well.
scoring.
Yeah, we haven't done that one yet.
Can we
Retention.
do, maybe as it relates to retention, maybe specifically in there is creating urgency around the renewal? We have a 90-day grace period built into our bylaws, and everyone knows it, and our members know it. So
I was just saying, it's hard to claim
painful.
urgent when you're giving people 90. Can you imagine I always say this. Can you imagine Netflix was like, your credit card failed, but no big deal. Like, don't worry
90
about it.
days.
We'll check
Again,
back in a few months.
It's painful though, so because they know that our grace period is long, and we actually really can't turn them off earlier because our bylaws won't allow it. And so we're trying to untrain the
Time
habit.
for a revote.
Sorry, Kim?
Time for a revote. Bring that to the board.
Well, so
Diana, a question for you. With the 90-day, are they able to purchase something at the member rate? Because we have a 90-day grace period, but we prevent them from purchasing anything. So because there's a bigger member discount if they purchase one of our courses. So even if they're in their 90-day grace period, they're not able to purchase until they purchase membership. So I don't.
Are they allowed to log in and access other member benefits during that time?
Yeah, they can get other benefits, but the only thing that they can't do is purchase.
Let's get that rate.
And to get the member rate until they pay up their membership.
Yeah, because then what happens is if we have people that do register for our conference and then they don't renew after the grace period, where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And in fact, this is something we never had. We actually, I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking about not going anymore with our 90-day grace period, because what we found is when we instituted it, believe it or not, our on-time renewals went down. And that's a problem. So we don't put it in as part of my calculations of membership number. We take them out. They are in their grace period, but they're not in my count for my membership number, because they still have not renewed. So I don't know. I think like anything else, I think it all depends on your members and how they operate, I guess.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, guys. This has been really helpful. I'm going to leave you with this. Do you know what style of shoes a frog wears?
Crocs.
Oh, very nice. Although crocodiles and frogs are not, maybe reptile. No, open-toed, Wayne. It's open-toed. All right. Hey, really want to thank Brittany and Robson. I never actually thank them for their help on doing these things. I do nothing. I come in here and I'm the show pony, and I come in and I talk, which I do a lot of, and they put this show on. So I really, really appreciate them organizing membership masterminds and bringing this group together. So thank you to Brittany and Robson for doing all the work here. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next month. Keep an eye out for the next invitation.
Thanks for
Bye,
joining,
everybody. Thank you.
everyone.
Have a good
Bye,
day.
everyone.